So I'm going to show you how to make one of my favorite fall kind of wintry go-to dinners, cranberry pork chops. My family loves pork chops. It's something a little different than chicken and beef. We eat a lot of that in my house, so whenever I make pork chops, it just seems to be a real wow factor, and everyone says, oh, they're so yummy. So this is the easiest recipe. You can pick up whatever type of pork chop is in your budget, whatever's on sale, bone in, boneless, thick, thin, whatever, it's all going to work just fine for this recipe. So the first thing I want to do is heat up a big skillet with a little bit of oil, and you want that skillet pretty hot. In fact, this may be a little too hot, and that's, key. You want it hot, but we don't want those pork chops to burn. So oil in the skillet, and then we're going to season up those chops, both sides. I've got some nice boneless pork chops with some salt and some pepper. I do like the a little bit thicker chops, but they're going to take a little bit longer to cook. They tend to, I think, keep a little more juicy. Pork is so, naturally dry that, but sometimes, if the thin ones are on sale or that's what you have in the freezer, it all works. So the key with delicious, juicy pork is not to overcook it. The internal temperature we're looking for these days is only 145 degrees. So once it reaches that, it's done. You don't have to cook pork forever and a day like we used to. Season both sides. And then because pork is so naturally dry, I love to serve it with a sauce. So in this case, we're going to have a delicious savory, actually, cranberry sauce. So again, salt and pepper on both sides. Then the secret ingredient, or one of the secret ingredients in this, is I love to use fresh thyme. Fresh thyme is so, I just can't describe it. Just picked it up at the grocery store. Dry thyme will work, that would be fine, but fresh thyme is just going to take this dish to a whole nother level. So when it comes to dealing with fresh thyme, you just take the leaves right off the stem. And it's really going to give this sauce some nice flavor. If you are using dried thyme and you don't want to run out and get the fresh, not a big deal, I get it. I would use about a half of a teaspoon, it's very strong in flavor, so maybe a half to a teaspoon, and just season each pork chop with a little bit of the dried thyme. In this case, we're just sprinkling each pork chop with a little bit of the fresh thyme. So I want to brown these up on both sides. See how they're doing color-wise. A little bit more to go. Pan temperature is perfect. It's nice and hot, but it's not smoking hot so that my pork chops are burning. Okay, so the next thing you're going to need is some Dijon mustard, which I normally have that in my fridge anyway, some chicken stock, and 1 can of whole berry cranberry sauce. If you're making your own cranberry sauce, you can certainly use that as well. Okay, so now we're going to give these a flip. These are beautiful. So, Anne, I know you grew up watching the Brady Bunch, right? Yep. So did I. So you probably remember that episode where it was the whole pork chops and applesauce. And yeah, Greg, my director, said it was Peter, and they were just having whole, fun with the whole pork chops and applesauce. So I'm totally dating myself, but it's true. I grew up when we had pork chops, we normally had pork chops with applesauce because, and I did some research, and I was like, why did that whole thing happen? Well, back in the day, we're talking long, long time ago, medieval times, when the meat was very dry, whatever the meat they were serving, they would serve it with some sort of a fruit to help wash it down. So that's how the whole pork chops and applesauce got started. And pork, as you know, we used to cook it forever and a day back when. We don't need to be cooking it as long, but it was very, very dry. And that applesauce just helped not only taste good with it, I kind of dip my pork chops in the applesauce, but it helps wash it down. But it doesn't have to be applesauce. In this case, cranberry sauce pairs really, really nicely with pork chops. So it's that same type of thing. Pears also, you could, pears go great with pork chops. So think other fruits when it comes to cooking savory items like pork and chicken breasts. And again, think about doing something else with cranberry sauce and fresh cranberries rather than just putting it in dessert. Okay, so at this point, our chops are nicely browned up. They don't have to be completely finished because we'll go ahead and finish them in the sauce. And we're going to remove them to a plate. And we've got all these great drippings. Pork chops make some of the best, most flavorful drippings. And you don't want to just be washing that pan and throwing those out. You want to take advantage of those drippings. So at this point, we're going to hit the pan, which my fancy chef friends say we're going to deglaze the pan, which basically that chicken stock, when it hits the pan, that hot pan, gets all those great brown bits from the bottom, brings them up, and you get this yummy sauce. So you can kind of use a whisk to make sure you're taking advantage of all those brown bits from the browning of the pork chops. Okay, so in goes a little bit of Dijon mustard. So this is not going to be a real sweet sauce. Whisk that in here. And then our 1 can of whole berry cranberry sauce. And it's the prettiest color. This makes a really quick weeknight fix. If you need to get dinner on the table in a hurry and you want to do something a little different, you've been making the same things over and over again, this is, 15, 20 minutes tops. Quicker than pizza delivery, Chinese takeout, all that kind of stuff. So when the cranberry sauce hits that warm pan, it's going to melt a little bit. Can do a little more chicken stock. And by the way, if you have any wonderful recipes with cranberries, please share. I would love to feature your recipes on my show, dessert or otherwise. And who knows, we may even invite you to come on the show and cook with me. Okay, so I want to bring that to a little bit of a simmer. And because I've got a really big skillet, that helps move this whole thing along. I'm going to do maybe a little more fresh thyme, just because I happen to love it, and fresh thyme is not real overpowering. It's a great way to kind of finish the sauce. Another thing you could do if you really wanted to make this a richer sauce is you could throw in a pat or two of butter just at the very end, cold butter. And that makes the sauce a little bit shiny and a little bit richer. So our pork chops weren't quite done yet. So at this point, we're going to take the chops and any drippings that might accumulate on the plate and get those right in there because those are flavor. And these are going to just finish cooking quickly in the sauce. Told you this was easy, and it's so delicious. Okay, one more thing. We're just going to chop up some fresh parsley just to finish off the dish and make this look really pretty. What do you serve this with? Because we've got that really delicious, nice cranberry sauce, you want to serve it with something that'll, soak up that sauce. My go-to with this dish would be wild rice, just a box of a wild rice blend. That's what I normally like to serve it with. Also great with homemade mashed potatoes. You could do noodles too, but I really like this with wild rice or a rice pilaf. I know during the cranberry season they do a big cranberry festival near where they harvest. I've got a girlfriend who goes with a bunch of girlfriends every year, and I hear it's great fun. It's on my list of things to do. They do it every fall, and they've got a big craft fair and all sorts of great things. Anyway, it's pretty neat, and you name it when it comes to cranberry recipes. They serve all sorts of different recipes at this kind of festival that they do. Okay, chops are looking beautiful. Sauce is thickening up just a little bit. As I said, this is a real wow factor. It's yummy. Take some of that sauce. Right down over the top. A little bit of parsley. And there you go. My cranberry pork chops, 15, 20 minutes or less, and man, are they good. And we'll put the recipe on the website. Coming up, lots more fun with cranberries. We are going to make a cranberry orange coffee cake, cranberry white chocolate cupcakes, and we're even going to decorate with beautiful cranberries. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back.